This is the service they have at the executive service in Richland Services, which is parked in the Richland Columbia Mighty River. And the Mighty Columbia River is obligated in the COVID-19 policy and regulation to service the executive order and the service applying the executive order. Now remember the service is a Ahoy mate. Now Ahoy mate has this extravagant, like the lamps and crane, resembling the Washington State lamps and crane here in Kennewick, Washington. Has the port, which is implemented to aboard a ship and board ship for bidding contracts and docks and stations that have been exempted by the COVID-19 policy regulation, and that's OSHA and services applying the equipment that's anchored and also deployed and import and export for staircase, just like Air Force One has the staircase, and also Marine One has a staircase to get off the arrivals and EFTs, and also the ETAs and arrivals and departures. And their services out the Mighty Columbia River Lake has exempt in this exceptional service of the mighty Columbia River, and the services applying for the Richland, Kennewick, and Andy Miller Prosecutor's Office, which is the Washington State Prosecutor's Office, carrying the exceptional owner of the COVID-19 policy regulation service that does the services applied at the Richland service. And their service applying the administration office COVID-19 policy and regulation services that carry the exceptional services applying to COVID-19's Mr. McKinnon. Now Mr. McKinnon, Schultz Tabor Wallace Administration Office, 56 East Street, Michigan, 704 East Olive, Muslake, Washington. This is Essential Service at OSHA Services. You know, the contact number, the first and last name, the fax number, Mr. Andy Miller, Washington State Prosecutor, Mr. McKinnon Law Firm, and Mr. James Norman Manis, which is Mr. Andy Miller, Mr. Patty Murray, Mrs. Cantwell, taking pictures and photographs of all the judges, senators, administration offices, the Governor Jay Inslee, and also Department of Motor Vehicles and License Department, which is implied on the administration of COVID-19 policy on the upgrades, the $35 upgrades on CDL license and services for the Washington State Governor Board, a palette of Board of Governors administration on Mr. McKinnon Law Firm, his administration office, 740 East Olive, Muslake, Washington, which is Knolt in Kennewick, Washington. Now, McKinnon and Mr. Flynn Palmer, and the Social Security Office, administrated COVID-19 policy for settlements, lawsuits, discretionary services, and also federal offenses and federal services and any points in service and table from George Washington House, number 42. So that's 350 points in the federal table. That's 42 points, and that's the maximum 350 to life. Now, 350 life is a max sentence in the federal units and services at the federal courthouse at 825 Jadwin. This is Mr. McKinnon. He's a popular man, Mr. Andy Miller. Mr. James Norman Manis at 712 West Okanagan Place, Mr. Patty Murray Cantwell. This is exceptional order. Now, Ivanka Barela is Fabinbarela. Mr. Steven Seagal and Mr. Jet Lee as witnesses, material witnesses in service and applying the COVID-19 policy regulations on the URL and download for the administration of COVID-19 policy regulation. Mr. Andy Miller is a star witness in the Washington State Service of the Nancy Pelosi and the COVID-19 policy in the Washington State, California ordinances in Central, North, Central, and on South California. Now, Pastic Valley is Beverly Hills, Treasure Island, and also Oakland, California, and the service and applying the COVID-19 policy in San Luis Obispo, Santa Barbara, Morro Bay, San Luis Obispo, Pismo Beach, Oceano Beach, and Oceano and service in Pismo Beach, and also the ocean services at the Bottoms Up. They call it the Bottoms Up, and the services in Oregon State. And Canada, they call it SAS Kodiak, and they call it Kodiak. And the service is exemplary order for the borders and the 5 borders, of course, the 5 borders, the 5 states, and also the oceans. There's 7 continents, 5 oceans, and there's 5 borderlines and services exempt from COVID-19, except for Arizona. Arizona has a little gateway, entranceway service at Arizona. And that gateway is Mr. Andy Miller, Washington State Prosecutor, 509-735-3591. They have this import-export of this OSHA orange service for a Ahoy mate. An Ahoy mate, when you're onshore on the bow, south bow, there's the left flank, there's the right flank, there's the back, and also the rear, and also the shipmate and the shipmate service for automatic or manual service for the shifter. That's in reversed. There's low gear, there's high gear, there's middle gear, and there's first gear, there's second gear, and third gear. And there's also lower differentials and derivatives into the engine intake manifold for the exemplary cold cranking amps. Now, back then it's 750 cold cranking amps that holds the charge for this ship. The cold cranking amps holds up 1,000 cranking amps, 750 cold cranking amps, 2,000 cranking amps, 100,000 cold cranking amps, and a backup generator. And there's a backup generator with the backup system with the Honda or electric United States Air Force generator, or United States Caterpillar generator, or the CAT or Caterpillar, or the diesel running ordnance, or the aviation fuel for backup renovated services for nuclear deterrent, which is not bypass. This is old but goody service that's been applied to the administration office. Mr. Andy Miller, James Manis, and also Mr. Mark Miley Andrew. That's Westside Pizza at CIMARON5. And Westside Pizza is Mr. Mark Miley Andrew, DOD, United States Army. That's Larson's Air Force Base in Moses Lake, Washington, number G10, G20 Summit, and those are green slips. Now, these back then it's yellow slips. They're G10s, G20s. Now they're green for submit confirmation agent name signatures, electronic signature, and a FedEx USPS prior to mail for confirmation services for direct signature and confirmation. Now, Westside Pizza is Mr. Mark Miley Andrew at CIMARON5INC Banquet Party Restaurant Bar. Mr. Donald Trump, of course. Mr. James Norman Mattis has his up to here in Richland, Washington. This birth certificate we had to submit the electronic signature, confirmation signature, voice recognition, and also the sub accounts, which is 20 accounts. Now, 20 accounts are connected to the sub accounts of Verizon, active business unit BI number 602-720-979. Mr. Miley, Mr. James Mass, Mr. Andy Miller uses Mr. Andy Miller at Seal Benton, Washington, U.S. See, information is recorded. Information that's people making things up, like you assault or getting shot or stabbed, and you're under electronic signature, you're under a mass appointed jury. People make shit up, as you can see. That's why we're sitting here in front of the federal courthouse, because people like making things up, because we got ownership here. Mr. James Norman Manis, long time ago, Lola Hernandez and John Hernandez and Sandy Strawn and Dick Cheney reside here in Kennewick. Now, Lola resided with Dick Cheney and Sandy Strawn, the Commissioner of Benton County Justice Department. That's Knoll. Now it's called Okanagan. Now, this vast development of South Lawn, Mueller's Funeral Home at 1401 South, used to be all desert land. This is all nuclear component background. It used to be fields and fields and fields. It used to be a nuclear deterrent test site, just like Idaho, just like Nevada, like New Mexico, Albuquerque, New Texas, Prescott, Flagstaff, and also the service of Tucson and Phoenix, and also the services of Mr. McCain. People like lying to people like making conversation, making shit up, because they don't even own it, and then the face recognition. You got dead bodies and all over in the services of COVID-19 September 11th. Before and after the Mueller's Funeral Home, and also the Mormon Church of the LDS, and the President, Vice President services and group of their society. Mr. Andy Miller, Mr. Eric D. Olson, family homes, Social Security off, went their business off, natural propane, billions and billions of feet destroyed. Fabricated administration and making things up in the business license services. We got this implied. We got this Mountain Dew. We got the Carl's Jr., owner of Carl's Jr. back then and passed away, but we got this Mountain Dew incubus for the Pepsi commercials. We got a cherry incubus and also the Blue Lightning and also the watermelon, like Sunny Farms, Sunset Acres watermelon service, because we got a bunch of thieves in the field stealing from Sunny Farms. Because we got the backlog information, the wheat, the farm, the barley, and also the 977 STS, and also the The RX tank. Maximum speed is 35 miles an hour. That's John Deere, Evergreen, Malone, Illinois. This fluid and service applying to COVID-19 for their Pepsi commercial and their biological increments to society of corruption. Mr. Andy Miller we have here. Mr. James Norman Mass, Mir Cannon, Mr. Miley, and this is the AM irrigation truck. Mr. Mike Miley at the Andrew Air Force Base in the Larson River, and Fairchild's Spokane, Washington, and Home Depot. And they call it Kohl's now. Now this service at Eric Wilson's and Family Homes, Mr. McKenna Law Firm, Mr. Andy Miller and James Madison, also their service of the increments of society making shit up. Andy Miller at Seabent, Washington, 509-735, Mr. Kennan. Luke at McKennaLawOffice.com, 509-735-6019. That's COVID-19, 6019. The reason it's 60 is because it's 60 and 119 COVID-19 policy regulation at Samuel Sullivan, which is Connaught. That's Andy Miller. Mr. Eric Deal is designated broker, and that's Sun Basin Properties.